This lady is an op. This lady is an op. There's no way around it. In one breath, Stephanie White wants to finally come to grips in terms that the Indiana Fever is Caitlin Clark's team. Now, we all know she was forced and pressured into saying that. She had said multiple times, Kelsey Mitchell's the main priority here, yada, yada, yada. And we have in this article where Stephanie White blasts Caitlin Clark fans again, calling them toxic as if her...
The WNBA erupted into absolute madness the moment a leaked audio clip exposed Stephanie White unleashing a blistering rant against Caitlin Clark's fan base, calling them toxic, delusional, and dangerously blind to the truth. The clip spread across social media like wildfire, blowing up timelines within minutes, sending shockwaves through locker rooms, media circles, and even Team USA preparation meetings. Fans rewound the audio repeatedly, jaws dropping as Stephanie's normally composed coaching voice dripped with frustration, exhaustion, and a fury no one had ever heard from her. "They don't want the real story," she snapped in the recording. "They don't care about context. They worship highlights and attack anyone who breathes differently around their golden girl." The second the clip hit the internet, everything combusted. Clark supporters exploded in outrage, demanding apologies, demanding answers, demanding accountability. Anti-Clark voices cheered in vicious triumph. Analysts scrambled to dissect every sentence, every inflection, every possible hidden target. And Caitlin Clark herself? She stayed silent, so silent that her silence became a headline of its own. Meanwhile, Stephanie tried to distance herself, claiming the clip was taken out of context, but the damage was irreversible. Because the clip didn't sound manipulated, it sounded real, raw, honest. And now the entire league was demanding to know, what truth was she talking about? What was she hiding behind the word context? And most importantly, why did she unleash this rant now, at the exact moment tensions around Caitlin were already reaching a
toxic for saying the obvious about the sabotage that was going on in this league and how this woman has been targeted since before she even stepped foot in it, all while Stephanie White wants to ignore the facts of what the other players in this league have done. From disrespecting fans, starting fake racial investigations, going on platform I'm gonna give you the facts that Stephanie...
Breaking point. Something deeper was brewing behind those words, something the public wasn't ready for. Long before Stephanie White's leaked audio detonated across the WNBA and turned Caitlin Clark's fanbase into a furious storm of outrage, there was a slow, quiet build-up happening behind the scenes. An emotional powder keg forming inside practice facilities, locker rooms, production studios, and private league circles. People saw the explosion, but they never saw the fuse. And that fuse began burning the very moment Caitlin's meteoric rise collided with the fragile, pressure-packed ecosystem the league had been struggling to stabilize for years. Stephanie, a seasoned coach who had survived every chaotic era of women's basketball, saw the shift earlier than anyone. She noticed the way Caitlin's highlights overshadowed full team performances. She watched social media turn into battlegrounds. She saw fan loyalty mutate into weaponized loyalty, where disagreement turned into hate, criticism turned into harassment, and nuance evaporated under the weight of viral narratives. It started subtly. Stephanie would make simple strategic comments during broadcasts. Nothing inflammatory, nothing personal, only to find herself bombarded by messages accusing her of hating Caitlin, being jealous, or protecting the old guard. At first, she brushed it off. Every star attracts noise. Every phenom attracts extremists. But the volume kept growing. Every week, every game, every discussion involving Caitlin became a lightning strike. And Stephanie, who valued
building a relationship with Kelsey, who I also covered when she was playing in college, who's somebody that was really instrumental in everything that we did.
Nuance more than popularity, found herself drowning in a tidal wave of reactions that ignored complexity and magnified conflict. What shocked her wasn't the passion, it was the desperation. Fans weren't just defending Caitlin. They were worshiping her to the point where any critique, any analysis, Any attempt to contextualize her impact became an attack, a betrayal, a sin. Behind closed doors, Stephanie began confiding in fellow coaches and analysts, admitting she felt trapped between honesty and survival. If she praised Caitlyn, she was accused of riding the hype. If she critiqued her, she was accused of sabotaging her. There was no middle ground, no safe lane, no room for truth. And the pressure didn't stop with broadcasts. At league meetings, executives pushed narratives centered around Caitlyn's popularity. Marketability models, sponsorship forecasts, media schedules, every discussion began and ended with her name, as if the league's entire existence depended on her shoulders. Stephanie wasn't blind, she understood Caitlyn's impact better than anyone. But she also saw the danger of the league losing its identity in the process, becoming too reliant on one rookie, one style, one storyline. Internally, players felt the tension too. Some embraced Caitlyn's rise, others resented the imbalance. Teammates whispered about favoritism. Veterans worried about erasure. Younger players feared backlash if they outshined her. And through all of it, Stephanie carried the emotional weight of being the only leader willing to acknowledge the issue out loud. But she had limits. She had breaking points. She had frustrations she kept swallowing because speaking them publicly felt like career suicide. Then, everything escalated. The hate campaigns began. Anonymous accounts attacking players who didn't praise Caitlyn enough. Journalists receiving death threats for providing balanced analysis. Coaches being clipped, twisted, misquoted, turned into villains simply for doing their jobs. Stephanie received so many messages that she started turning off her phone after games. It wasn't the criticism that hurt, it was the venom. The cruelty, the mob-like behavior that made the league feel unrecognizable compared to the community she had dedicated her life to. The moment that changed everything came during a late-night team meeting. A rookie, talented, humble, soft-spoken admitted she was terrified to guard Caitlyn aggressively on national broadcasts because she knew her social media would explode with hate if she committed a hard foul. She said she had already received threats after one viral clip of her contesting Caitlyn's shot. Stephanie felt something inside her snap.
Basketball hadn't experienced this boom in popularity, which is largely in part to star players like Caitlyn Clark, Angel Reese, and Paige Beckers. I don't know why they keep trying to throw them in it. I get Angel Reese did bring some popularity, Paige Beckers did too, but they don't need to be a part of the Caitlyn Clark conversation. Caitlyn Clark is the reason for the boom in the WNBA, point blank, period. It's not because of no Angel Reese. It's not because of no Paige Beckers. They had some of the lowest attendance for their games throughout the entire season. So I don't know why they keep trying to lump them in with Caitlyn Clark. But whatever. It's hard to imagine the WNBA players would get vastly increased salaries they're going to receive as part of a ratified CBA, or at least their salaries wouldn't have increased to the same degree. Now, we know they wouldn't be asking for all this money if it wasn't for Caitlyn Clark.
That wasn't fandom, that wasn't passion, that was toxicity. And the league was ignoring it, pretending it wasn't happening, hoping it would fade. But it wasn't fading, it was growing. And everyone who tried to talk about it was immediately drowned out by online attacks. Privately, Stephanie confronted league officials. She said the atmosphere wasn't fair to Caitlyn, to veterans, to rookies, to anyone. She warned that if the WNBA didn't get a grip on the toxic behavior spiraling around Caitlyn's name, something catastrophic would happen. Officials nodded politely, offering empty reassurances, refusing to challenge the economic momentum Caitlyn's fame was generating. Money was flowing, ratings were rising, attendance records were breaking. Why risk disrupting that? Stephanie left those meetings furious, unheard, and exhausted. And that's when the audio happened. It wasn't supposed to be recorded. It wasn't meant for public ears. It came from a private conversation. Raw, unfiltered, emotional. Spoken after months of silence and swallowed frustration. She wasn't attacking all fans. She wasn't even attacking Caitlyn. She was venting about the toxic subset that had been tearing the league apart, warping narratives, silencing players, and turning healthy competition into a war zone. But context didn't matter. Only the clip mattered. And once released, Every assumption, every bias, every simmering resentment exploded. Players panicked. Fans rioted online. Analysts chose sides. Executives scrambled. And Caitlin Clark, stuck silently in the middle of the storm, realized the clip exposed something far deeper than a rant. It exposed a truth the WNBA had been avoiding for months. A truth Stephanie should have been careful with. A truth Caitlin was not ready to face. A truth that was about to trigger the first major twist and flip the scandal upside down. The fallout from Stephanie White's leaked audio erupted with far more violence than anyone in the WNBA was prepared for. The moment her rant hit the internet, it wasn't just fans who reacted, it was players, coaches, executives, sponsors, media figures, and every single stakeholder who had been secretly suffocating under the growing division inside the league. The audio didn't start a fire, it simply revealed one that had been burning underground for months. And within hours, that hidden fire became an inferno. Lexi Donarski tweeted a cryptic, "I've been waiting for someone to say it." Deanna Taurasi allegedly snapped at a reporter, "Now you all finally see what we deal with." Multiple rookies posted anonymous confessions about online harassment from extreme fan groups. Even the NCAA got dragged into the chaos as past statements resurfaced. But the person at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark, was spiraling behind the scenes, trying to process the emotional shrapnel blowing up around her name. And it was only the beginning. Caitlin had never heard Stephanie speak like that, so raw, so frustrated, so defeated. She replayed the audio over and over in her hotel room, trying to understand whether it was anger at her fans, or anger at the system that had pushed everything to the brink. But the more she listened, the more painful a realization formed in her chest. Stephanie wasn't ranting about Caitlin. She was ranting about the world, forcing Caitlin into a role that was slowly destroying everyone around her, including herself. Caitlin wanted to defend Stephanie. She wanted to speak out and calm the storm. But every advisor told her the same thing: say nothing, write it out, don't add fuel to the fire. Silence became her only option. Yet silence was exactly what the world misinterpreted as guilt, arrogance, or support of the toxic fans Stephanie condemned. Meanwhile, Stephanie was unraveling emotionally. She wasn't afraid for her job. She was afraid for the relationships she'd spent a career building. She was afraid that a single out-of-context clip had made her the villain in a story she was desperately trying to fix. League officials interrogated her behind closed doors, demanding explanations. PR teams coached her statements. But the tension in her voice didn't come from fear, it came from regret. Not because she said the words, but because she hadn't said more. Because she had been silent while a storm of toxicity grew around a young player who didn't deserve the burden of manufactured hate. She had tried to protect the truth privately, but the league always chose profit over honesty. Now the truth was out, and the people who should have heard it gently had heard it through a leak meant to destroy her. But here is where the real conflict erupted. Because the leak wasn't an accident. The leak wasn't a mistake. The leak wasn't even from an internal team member. The leak was intentional, engineered, weaponized, and it was targeted at one person, not Caitlin, not Stephanie, but someone else entirely. At 2:17 a.m., the WNBA received an anonymous message sent directly to league headquarters. The subject line was simple: "You missed the real problem." Attached was a folder, encrypted, time-stamped, professionally scrubbed to hide the sender. Inside were dozens of documents, messages, and transcripts revealing a truth so explosive, the league froze in shock. It exposed a shadow network, an internal coalition of staffers, commentators, and former players who had been secretly working together for months to dismantle the Caitlin Clark phenomenon from the inside. The motive wasn't jealousy. It wasn't hatred. It was fear. Fear that Caitlin's meteoric rise would shift power away from veteran-led influence circles. Fear that the league's financial model would restructure around one rookie. Fear that traditional hierarchies were collapsing. This coalition had one mission: to rebalance control before the league lost itself in the Clark effect. And the documents revealed emails, meetings, group chats, strategy outlines, plans to manipulate narratives, plans to amplify criticism, plans to temper unrealistic hype. They even tracked fan behavior, yes, even the toxic ones, intentionally boosting the worst examples to paint Caitlyn's entire fan base as dangerous. And at the center of this coalition was a name no one expected, a blunt signature, S. Swoops. But she wasn't acting alone. She had partners. And the second name stopped Caitlyn's heart cold. A senior WNBA media executive assigned to monitor Caitlyn's PR trajectory. A woman whose voice had always praised Caitlyn publicly. A woman who always protected the league's image. A woman who, unbeknownst to everyone, was orchestrating narratives to control the Caitlyn phenomenon. The league panicked. Sponsors panicked. Teams panicked. But the most dangerous reaction came from the person the coalition had secretly feared the most. Caitlyn Clark. She confronted Stephanie immediately, tears in her eyes, voice trembling, hands shaking. "I didn't know any of this," Caitlyn whispered. "I didn't know they were doing this to you, to me, to anyone." Stephanie, exhausted and broken, finally told the truth in a shattering confession. "They weren't attacking you, Caitlyn. They were attacking the power your name carries." Then the first major twist struck. Another file leaked, this time to the public, revealing that the initial Stephanie audio wasn't released by her enemies. It was released by someone inside the coalition to frame Stephanie as the fall person. Before the documents dropped, they wanted the public to turn on Stephanie first. They wanted her credibility destroyed. They wanted Caitlyn's defenders too distracted to see the bigger scandal. And their plan almost worked. Until the second leak exposed everything. Then, in the biggest shock of the night, a video surfaced at dawn. A recorded Zoom meeting. A secret strategy call. A voice saying, "If we discredit White now, Clark's fanbase will attack her. It keeps the pressure off us." The speaker on the call? The senior media executive who had been publicly praising Caitlyn for months. The betrayal hit Caitlyn like a punch to the chest. But the video ended with a line more horrifying than anything else. "Clark can never find out who started this. It would destroy her." Too late. Caitlyn had already found out. And now? She was ready to blow the entire league open. The moment the second leak hit the public, exposing the shadow coalition, the manipulated narratives, and the senior media executives secretly orchestrating chaos, the WNBA didn't just enter crisis mode, it imploded. Phones rang non-stop. Legal teams rushed into emergency meetings. Team owners demanded answers. Sponsors threatened to pull deals. And inside training facilities across the league, players paced in stunned silence, whispering in disbelief as the foundations of their entire ecosystem cracked open in one night. But while the league scrambled to contain the fallout, the emotional explosion happening between Stephanie White and Caitlyn Clark was far more intense than anything unfolding in boardrooms or media hubs. Caitlyn was shaking when she confronted Stephanie. Not with anger, no. Anger would have been easier to manage. She was shaking with heartbreak, pain, disbelief, because every ounce of confidence she had placed in league leadership, in media guidance, in veteran voices who once felt like mentors, had been shattered. She stood in the dim hallway of the practice facility, eyes red, voice breaking as she tried to process how many people had been secretly pulling strings around her career. Stephanie didn't defend herself. She didn't argue. She didn't try to spin anything. She simply listened, her jaw tight, tears forming in her eyes too, not because she was guilty, but because she now understood the full brutality of the scheme that had weaponized both her reputation and Caitlyn's. "They wanted us to turn on each other," Stephanie finally whispered. "They wanted the players split. They wanted you isolated, so you could be controlled. They wanted me destroyed so no one would believe me when the truth finally surfaced." Caitlyn swallowed hard, the truth hitting her like a punch to the ribs. For months, she thought silence would protect her. Now she realized that her silence had been used as a shield by people who never cared about her well-being. People who saw her not as a person but as a brand asset. A marketing tool. A chess piece. Outside the facility, Chaos was erupting. Fans were firing accusations at every direction toward Stephanie, toward the coalition, toward the media executive, toward anyone even remotely connected to the scandal. Videos were circulating, threads were being dissected, analysts were dissecting leaked transcripts with forensic detail. And buried within that digital avalanche was the clip that would send the entire situation spiraling into its second major twist. A 32-second audio file, uploaded anonymously, titled only, "Internal Call. Do not ignore." When journalists clicked play, they froze. The voice on the recording belonged to the senior media executive, the same woman who had spent months publicly promoting Caitlin Clark's success. But this time, her mask was gone. Her tone was sharp, calculated, power-drunk. "We need to keep Clark marketable. Manufactured adversity works. Manufactured conflict works. We control her brand, not the players. Not the coaches. Certainly not White." Gasps filled newsrooms. But it got worse. A second voice chimed in, someone who hadn't appeared in any leaks so far. Someone whose identity was unknown. Calm. Confident. Chilling. "If Stephanie fights back, so what? Let her drown. Clark's fans will tear her apart. That's the value of a fan base that worships its idol. They're a weapon. Use them." Weapon. The word rippled across the WNBA like an electric shock. Caitlin nearly dropped her phone when she heard it. Stephanie leaned forward, fury blazing in her eyes. "They were using your fans? Not blaming them, they were using them." Caitlin felt her stomach twist. Every hateful DM, every toxic thread, every online war, none of it was organic. The worst parts of the fan base weren't just acting alone. They were being nudged, guided, amplified, purposely by people who wanted chaos, people who wanted conflict, people who wanted to keep the league divided so they could maintain control. But the recording wasn't finished. The mysterious second voice said something that froze the entire country. "If Clark ever realizes what we've done, she'll flip the entire league upside down. So we make sure she never sees the full picture. Keep her busy, keep her quiet, keep her overwhelmed. She doesn't need the truth, she needs containment." Containment. That single word broke Caitlin Clark. She felt the ground beneath her shift, the room spinning, her pulse racing uncontrollably. The coalition hadn't just infiltrated commentary circles. It had infiltrated league operations, media guidance, player development pipelines. And they hadn't just manipulated narratives, they had manipulated her life. Stephanie saw the pain hit Caitlin like a tidal wave, and grabbed her shoulders firmly. "Look at me," she said. "This wasn't you. This was them. You didn't cause this. You didn't ask for this. You didn't deserve any of this." But Caitlin's voice cracked in a way Stephanie had never heard. "They used my name to destroy you. They used my name to divide the league. They used my fans as weapons. They used everything." And then, another notification hit Caitlin's phone. A video. A live feed. Sent by an unknown number. Caitlin opened it with trembling hands. And the camera showed the senior media executive, inside a secret meeting room, speaking urgently to someone standing in the corner. The camera angle didn't reveal the person's face, but their silhouette looked familiar. Too familiar. The executive said, "We have one final move left. If we don't flip the narrative now, players will rally around Clark and White. We need a distraction, a big one. Something that shifts the entire conversation. Something that turns the public on Clark again." The figure in the corner nodded slowly. Caitlin's breath froze. Stephanie went pale. "No," Caitlin whispered. "No, it can't be." The silhouette stepped into the light, revealing not a league official, not a player, not a reporter, but a WNBA team owner. And not just any owner. One who had publicly praised Caitlin for months, one who had been privately advising her team, one who had quietly shaped league politics for years. The owner leaned in and said, "I can deliver the distraction. But when this hits the media, Clark will never recover." Caitlin dropped the phone. Aja Wilson, who had just entered the room mid-conversation, picked it up. Her face darkened with rage. "This isn't a scandal anymore," Aja whispered. "This is a takedown." The three women stood together, united now by betrayal, fury, and the undeniable truth. The WNBA was being controlled from the shadows, and someone powerful wanted Caitlin Clark destroyed. But the biggest twist hadn't arrived yet. Caitlin's phone buzzed one last time. A message from the mentor who had vanished hours earlier. "Meet me. Alone. I have the final file. It proves who's really running all of this." The location: a restricted WNBA media vault. The time: midnight. Stephanie grabbed Caitlin's arm. Aja stepped between them. "No," they said in unison. But Caitlin's voice was firm. "I have to go." The league's deepest secret was waiting for her, and she was done being a pawn. The walk to the restricted WNBA media vault felt like descending into another world, one Caitlin Clark never imagined she'd enter. Especially not alone, especially not at midnight, especially not with the weight of an entire collapsing league on her shoulders. The corridors were dim, the building eerily quiet except for the distant hum of failing fluorescent lights. Every footstep echoed like a warning. Every shadow felt alive. And yet, Caitlin kept moving, her breath sharp, her heart trembling, her mind replaying every betrayal, every manipulated headline, every whispered plot designed to break her spirit. She wasn't just searching for answers, now she was preparing for war. Because if this final file truly revealed the mastermind running the entire corruption machine, she knew her life, her career, her safety would never be the same. When she reached the vault door, a steel slab taller than she was, her stomach dropped. Someone had already turned off the internal cameras. The red recording lights were dead. The keypad glowed faintly, waiting. She typed the temporary override code sent from the blocked number. The lock clicked. The door opened slowly with a low metallic groan. Cold air hit her face. And then she saw her mentor, sitting at a metal table, hands shaking, eyes hollow, breathing hard like she'd been running. But she wasn't alone. There were boxes stacked high around her old archives, sealed drives, printed transcripts, shredded documents taped back together. Evidence, years of it, more than Caitlin ever imagined. Her mentor's voice cracked as she whispered, "I didn't know who else to trust. They think I'm gone. They think I've been silenced. But I'm not leaving until you see everything." Caitlin hesitated. "Why me?" Her mentor pressed a trembling hand to her chest. "Because you're the only one they can't control." Before Caitlin could respond, her mentor pushed a thick folder across the table. This is the root, the beginning, the blueprint. Everything you've seen is part of a larger design, but this file names the one person above everyone else, the one pulling the strings, the one feeding orders to owners, executives, media, even players. Caitlin's hands shook violently as she opened the file. But before she could read more than a few lines, a loud clatter echoed in the hallway. Footsteps, heavy, growing louder. Her mentor's eyes widened with terror. "They're here!" Caitlin slammed the file shut, gripping it tight as adrenaline surged through her veins. Heavy fists pounded on the vault door. A deep voice shouted, "Open it, now!" Her mentor scrambled to gather the rest of the evidence. "Listen to me," she said urgently. "You have to expose this. You have to tell Stephanie. You have to tell Aja. You have to tell everyone. They'll come after you. They'll say you lied. They'll try to break you. But you cannot let this file disappear." The banging intensified. Metal bent under the force. The vault door groaned. Caitlin grabbed her mentor's hand. "Come with me." Her mentor shook her head. Tears spilled down her face. "I won't make it out. They'll never let me." "But you," she squeezed Caitlin's hand desperately. "You still have time." The vault lights flickered violently. The door began to open. Security armed flooded into view. Caitlin's mentor shoved her toward the back exit. "Run!" Caitlin stumbled backward, clutching the file, panic tearing through her chest. Her mentor screamed one last warning. The league isn't being run by who you think it's being run by. A deafening crash cut her off. Agents swarmed. The vault door slammed shut between them. Caitlin was thrown into darkness. Heart pounding. File pressed to her chest. Alone. Shaking. She staggered backward, reaching for the emergency ladder her mentor had pointed to. Alarms blared above. Someone shouted her name in the hallway. Someone else yelled to, "Secure the perimeter." Caitlin climbed the ladder with trembling hands, lungs burning as fear and determination blurred together. When she burst through the rooftop hatch into the freezing night air, she checked the file still there, still intact. But the last page, the one naming the true mastermind, was missing. Ripped out. Taken. Stolen in the chaos. Caitlin collapsed to her knees, breathless, horrified. She finally had proof the conspiracy existed, but not the name. Then her phone buzzed. A message. No caller ID. Just one sentence. "I have the missing page. If you want it, come alone." And below it, a location. One Caitlin never expected. One tied to her past. One tied to everything. She looked out over the city lights, wind whipping her hair, heartbreaking and hardening at the same time. This wasn't over. This was the beginning. The truth was out there, and someone was waiting for her. The next move? Hers. And hers alone.